Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making a video on request of one of my viewer about CS106, and I will be explaining you the functioning of this radio. This is a digital chip radio which plays shortwave, medium wave and FM. So first of all, when you hold the radio in your hand and the antenna is on the top of the radio, you just turn it in the reverse, which means now you're having it on your backside is facing you. There is, in the middle of the radio, there is a kickstand which you can lift up by holding in the bottom of the notch which is given for the kickstand. Immediately below the kickstand is the notch for battery insertion. You slide it down and the battery cabinet's cover will come out, and you will have to use two AA sized battery. There is a small ribbon inside which you can feel when you touch with your finger inside. You'll feel there's a ribbon. So what you do, you take one AA size battery in your hand. The tip of the battery, which is the protruded part, stays on the right side. When you are facing the battery, the tip of the battery is on the right side. Then you put it in the cabinet and slide inside towards the left. Okay, that is the first battery going inside. And again take the second battery, again keeping the tip of the battery, the protruded part, on the right side. You put the second battery and then you press a little and the battery will go inside. You have to check that battery is fitted inside the battery slot properly. 288 size battery. You have to make sure that the batteries are new, because this radio is very hard on power consumption. The battery drain is very quickly. It drains battery like in 2 hours of playing. That's the biggest drawback for this radio. So once you slide in the battery, you should be able to feel that the battery cabinet is on the bottom of the radio. Okay, the side which is facing you, the back side of the radio, when facing you, the battery cabinet is in the bottom. 2 batteries are inserted, fresh batteries. The tip of the batteries are pointing towards the right, because that is the alignment for the batteries. And then you take the battery cover and slide it back in. So you first align the battery cabinet's upper notch, which clicks in inside the hole. You will be able to feel it. Then you press and slide up and the battery cabinet will be fixed properly with its cover on. Now you take the radio facing towards your front. You go to the right side of the radio, where you will feel that there is a switch. On the right side of the radio, there is a switch which, if you slide up, it is in the power off position. When you slide it down, it goes in the power on position. And above that switch, there is a slot for inserting a USB cable of micro USB. Sorry, not micro, it is type C USB mini or type C USB micro, the standard Android USB. It's not type C, it's a type B micro, I think, the older one which you are finding like commonly in the Android phones of the previous generation. Above that is the headphone jack, which you will be able to feel. And then when you turn this on by sliding the switch towards the bottom downside, there is a clock which is flashing on the screen. And on the top right side of the button, you should be able to feel the buttons on the front side. There are 5 columns of the button. Starting from the left side, we have first column. In this column we have 3 buttons. The top button is the on off button, which is the power button. Below is the tuning button up, which means you will press it to tune up the radio on the frequency, and below is the tuning down, which means you press it to tune down to the radio frequency. The next column after the column of the power button, which is again counting from the left side, counting from the right side, is the second column. It again has 3 buttons in this column. So the top button is the mute button. There is a weird thing about this radio. The mute button does the same function as the power button. I mean, you will press it once, the radio will mute, and both the keys does the same thing. Then below the mute button we have the volume up button, and below volume up button we have volume down button. So counting from the right side of the radio, we have top button is power on off, which is the top rightmost corner. Then we have below it is tuning up, below it is tuning down. These are 3 buttons. Then the next column, the top button is mute, below it is volume up, below it is volume down. After that we have 3 more columns of the button, and each column have 2 buttons. So the next one is the memory button, and below it is the selection button, which talks about FM. It is also written minute, which means this button can also be used to set the timing if you keep it long pressed. Then we have the next the next column again. It is M plus, which is also a lock button. When you keep it pressed holding, it will lock the frequencies that you have typed. And below it is medium waves button to toggle between medium wave. The next column, which is the last column towards the left, is the leftmost column. The top button is favorite, and below it is shortwave. So again, favorite button is not necessary for us, because I think it is used for in China they have the radio stations. In colleges you can choose some of the FM stations on this one, which it doesn't function for me. So we have 3 most important button in the two button columns. One is, all of them are located at the bottom. Shortwave on the leftmost corner. Next to it is medium wave, which is towards the second column bottom, from counting from the left. And then we have FM, which is the third column from either of the side, okay, at the bottom of the left. Once you switch on the radio by sliding the button down, the clock starts flashing. You keep pressing hold the on and off button, which is on the top right corner, for 3 seconds, and you will hear the static. You see the radio currently is in the shortwave mode, so the default starting of the radio takes you into the shortwave mode. Now this is default because I put the batteries freshly, and this is static you should be able to hear. And you can pull the antenna up, and we can go to the volume button, which is located again in the second column from the right side. The volume button is located in the second column from the right side, and the second and the third button, which means the second and the last button in the column from the top, is the volume up and down. So if you press the second button, it will volume up. We have a total of 32 points of volume up, and then again we have 32 points of volume down. You press the button below it, the volume up button, it goes you to the volume down. You can press it to volume down it. Now, in order to toggle between the radio stations, you go to the first column from the right side. The button below the volume button, the button below the power button is the tune up, and below tune up is tune down. So you press it once, the radio will tune up for 5 kilohertz on shortwave. Each time you press it once, it will tune 5 kilohertz up. If you tune it down, it will again tune 5 kilohertz down on the shortwave. If you keep it pressed and holding, it will start to scan. If you keep it pressed holding for 2 seconds, it will start to scan. And it will scan and stop at any of the channel on reception on which the reception is coming. But it is not very sensitive. It sometimes skips the channel which you want to go to. So it's better you can go manually. But the problem is that when you go manually, the channels are so many, which is starting from 3 point something kilohertz to 21 point something kilohertz. So you will see that it's difficult if you will keep pressing or toggling. So therefore what you can do, there are selection of rows which are put over here. So you go to the leftmost column, which is located on the left side of the button setup. The leftmost column, you will be able to feel 2 buttons. The top one is the favorite, we do not have to touch it. But below that button there is a button which is termed as Shortwave. If you press that button once, it will take you onto different shortwave band. The first band is starting from 11.65 kilohertz. The second band is starting from 15.10 kilohertz. And then we have 17.5 kilohertz, 21.45 kilohertz, 4.75 kilohertz. The 3 point something kilohertz is not put into the band side button, but it makes your job easier. When you press the shortwave button single time, it takes you on the different bands, and you don't have to now scroll the entire band at a go. You can choose different band. So once you reach a particular band, you can use the same tune up button to tune up on the frequency and tune down on the frequency. Each press is 5 frequency up, each press down is 5 frequency down, which is 0.5 kilohertz. And like I said, in order to go to different bands like meter bands, which we call as like the 13 meter band, 25 meter band, 49, you go to the leftmost side, bottom left corner button. That's the shortwave button. It will directly take you to the bands, but again you will have to scroll through the bands by pressing the tune keys. So let's say I'm in the currently band of 9.5 kilohertz, and then I press the tune up button by keeping it pressing, so it is automatically scanning. So you see it automatically chose a particular channel after scanning. The reception is mild, but you are able to hear. The thing is that you need to know that there is to be a static sound coming. If the static sound is not coming, then your radio is either not powered on or the battery has drained out, or it might be in the power on radio but not exactly turned on, because you only press the switch down, the radio gets the clock turned on. But in order to turn on the radio, actually you have to keep pressing the top right corner button on the button panel. Then you keep pressing up the tune button, it will continue scanning. While scanning, the radio does not make a static sound because it is scanning. If you want to stop the scanning, you just press the tune button and it will stop the scanning, and just stay on the channel which you were keeping it on. So you keep pressed, it will continue to scan again. The only problem is that the scanning part of the radio is not sensitive, and it's not sensitive completely if you are living in cities where we have buildings. So this radio is it's a bit difficult in its usage when it comes to like scanning. But if you know the channel, and if you can actually scroll down step by step, then it's better to like go. So this is about the shortwave. Before moving on to the medium wave, I will restart the radio and I will tell you how to program it on shortwave. In order to turn off the radio, the best thing or the better way is to just slide the button down, which is located on the right side. Sliding it up will turn off the radio. So instead of keeping it on the downside position, which is this over here. You slide it up and it will turn off the radio. To turn on the radio, you slide it down. The clock starts flashing, but the radio is still turned off. On the top right corner is the on and off button. You turn it on by pressing it for 3 seconds. The radio turns on and it goes into the static mode. Now on the screen you will see that it is by default it was on shortwave. So let me confirm whether it is always on shortwave by default or does it changes. So I have switched the radio to the medium wave mode and I'm now turning off the radio by sliding the button up. So I turned off the radio. Now I'm turning on the radio again. I slide the button down. The clock starts flashing and on the top right corner I have this clock button, power on. I press it for like 3 seconds and the radio turned on. Now it turned on in the same mode and on the same frequency what I left before. So it turned on the medium wave mode and on the 522 kilohertz, which was the frequency which I left it on. So therefore by default it will not automatically turn on the default frequency, but it will turn on the frequency you left. So it's better if you want to select which mode you want to listen your radio in. You again go to the button which is on the bottom side row. Okay, the bottom side row button are for the selection of the modes. The leftmost button is the shortwave. You press it once, the radio will go into shortwave mode. You will be able to hear the difference of the static sound. Then from the second button, from the left side, the bottom row left side, second button is the medium wave. You'll hear a different sound frequency. And the third button from the left side bottom row is the FM mode, and you see the frequency tone is changing. Now FM mode is the easiest one to scroll. You don't have to select because FM channels are very limited and the scanning doesn't take a lot of time. So you simply go to the tune up button and you keep pressing the frequency up and it will continue scanning. So it will scan all the FM channel, and whichever channel it starts to receive, it will stop over there. So I'm scanning currently because this radio has also long wave and the FM wave 2, which is in some of the Asian countries starting from 64 megahertz. Therefore it will take slight time but not a lot of time. So currently it is scanning on 70 megahertz, now 71. So at 71 it paused, but there is no reception. I press again the tune up button, it starts scanning again. So you have to keep pressing for like 2 seconds to scan. It again stopped. When there is mild frequency it stops. So I keep pressing again the tune up button, it's again tuning up. But it again stopped. I again keeping pressing the tuning up button, it stopped at 79 because some of the receptions are there. So I kept it again pressing. Now it is scanning on 83. Again paused. I kept the tuning button pressed up. Okay, so there is a problem again with that. It will not scan the entire band selection. So like I said on shortwave, when you press the shortwave button, it takes you to different band selection. The same goes for FM wave. It has limitation of band selection. One band is starting from 52 megahertz to 84. The other band is starting from 87 megahertz and it goes till 106 megahertz. And the third band is starting from 56 megahertz to I think 64 megahertz. So you will have to again figure it. Sorry, the third band is starting from like 174. So okay, this is also VHF. I have forgotten because I have not used this radio for a very long time. But in order to find the right band, the first band starts from 52 megahertz, the second band starts from 87. So the second one is the where you will find the channels on the broadcast one, which starts from 87 megahertz. So you tune up, press the button, tune up button, it will start scanning. So 87, then it is now on 90. I have some reception on 90 megahertz, 0.8. Then I keep it pressing, it will tune up again. It's now on 92.7. So FM reception is very good. FM reception of this radio is very good. You will have to keep the antenna up. So each time receives the reception, the radio will pause on that reception and it will start playing that channel.
When it's your favorite cup.
Okay, so again to tune up. So if you want to pause the radio, let's say you don't want to turn it off, but if you want to pause the radio, you simply press the power button once and the radio will pause. The channel will not change, the frequency will not change, the radio will pause, the sound will stop. If you want to turn on the radio again, just press one time without keeping it pressing. Just one time press the power button, it will get back. Okay, now if you want to listen to the medium wave, the bottom row is starting from the leftmost corner of the button panel. Press the second button, it will take you to the medium wave. Now medium wave does not have any band selection. It will simply start from 522 kHz and it will go all the way up to 1400 kHz, 1600 kHz. So again, to tune up, you just keep it pressing up and it will scan. The scanning of the medium wave is different on the radios. In the countries where it has 9 kHz band gap, you will have to buy the 9 kHz radio, which means this radio has variation. One is to 10 kHz gap, the other one is 9 kHz gap. So the country I live in is on the 9 kHz gap, so I bought the one with 9 kHz variation. So on medium wave, unfortunately, I have no reception currently where I live, so it's not getting any reception, so I'm not able to demonstrate you. But anyway, so in order to stop the tuning, you just press the tuning button and it will stop right there. So I'll go to shortwaves again. Press the shortwave button, which is the bottom left corner button. Okay, the bottom row leftmost button is the shortwave. It has bands, so you can, each time you press one time, you don't have to keep it pressing. When you press one time, the bands will switch. And you will use tune up button to scan up. You will use tune down button to scan down. I hope this was helpful for you, and thank you very much for listening to this video. Thank you very much. Best of luck.